And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Just one of the many reasons I love where we live, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty awesome.
We're talking about Park City and it being 20 minutes away.
Yeah, or as you mentioned Snowbird.
Yeah.
Just that access to that thing being 20 minutes away is pretty amazing.
And not even in the winter. We're talking specifically about the affordability of staying in some of these places in the summer.
In the off season.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this. The Olympics are coming back, right? And, of course, I remember the 2002 games so fondly. But if there was ever a place that was, like, designed somehow to host a Winter Olympic Games, or any Olympic Games for that matter, I would argue, it's us.
It really is. And not just because of the weather, though that's a huge plus.
Huge plus. Like, I mean, the snow's awesome. Even when the snow's bad, in February, the snow is awesome compared to many other places that have hosted it. But the access is there. The infrastructure, like we have freeways going to Park City.
Yeah.
And that's, how far from the airport? 45
not
minutes?
Even that. You could probably get to down Main Street, Park City from the airport. I bet you in 35 minutes.
Have you seen the map of like the Beijing Winter Olympics?
Yeah.
And where stuff was, the venues actually were?
My fiance, I told you, was covering the basketball tournament in Paris. But it wasn't in Paris. It was in Lille, which is like an hour-and-a-half train ride. You know what I mean? It's like nothing's actually close to each other, and that's not an issue we have. I
went to the biathlon in Soldier Hollow, which had to be one of the furthest venues away. That's like an hour?
Yeah.
Not even that from the airport, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
And that venue was incredible. And then not to mention the ability of a large city to host, some of those things like Tahoe hosted an Olympic Games. Tahoe could never host an Olympic Games. The city of Tahoe, because it's just not like Reno could.
Yes.
And then have Tahoe as a venue, but Tahoe could never host it. It's just not, it doesn't have the infrastructure,
We've got some big little city stuff too. We are big enough to host something like that, but the city's not so huge that it's overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly.
Like LA, there are two different cities. You know what I mean? It's enormous, and obviously hope everyone in LA is doing all right, but it's such an enormous city. Man, I forgot they've got the next Olympics, don't they?
They do. And that's a big deal, actually.
That's brutal. Yeah, so you just think about like how difficult it is to travel. It's hard to travel anywhere in LA, and the Olympics are going to make that even more difficult. But yeah, Salt Lake's awesome.
We have a giant airport.
Yeah, and it's new and it's easy to get to.
Right. I mean, I think of like Aspen could never, I mean, they have an airport, but they don't have an airport that could ever, handle that kind of thing.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, like Denver ain't close to Aspen.
No, it's not. Or the airport, for that matter.
I was pretty surprised at that, having made that drive from Denver to Aspen. I just have it pictured in my mind, Park City, like, oh, yeah, it's like right there.
Well, I'm excited.
It is not.
You've got me excited for the Olympics, and it's 9 years away.
Oh, man. 2002. How old would you have been, Christian?
You want to guess?
1.
2.
Okay, so you don't count in this discussion.
You didn't go to any concerts?
No. I didn't meet you must be this tall.
You weren't doing the open liquor downtown that was allowed suddenly?
How old were you?
15. 16.
15.
16,
so definitely
almost 16.
Old enough to experience it.
I didn't do enough. I should have done more. I'm glad it's coming back.
I was 20.
Yeah.
And it was like...
Life is good.
It was the perfect age to experience that.
Yeah.
I went to a couple of concerts. I went to a bunch of events.
Yep.
I saw the different venues, and it was so cool.
I'm going to have a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old when they come.
And
it's going to be a wreck.
Everybody, and let me because I'm the only one who remembers things around here, which is very strange. But I want to quell this. The panic leading up to it about this is going to be the worst experience of my entire life. Like, oh, the freeways are going to be jammed for 2 consecutive weeks. And all these people, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to rent out my house and I'm going to leave. All of that is all fake. That is not, none of that happened. And I do remember, it's like the build up to Y2K.
Correct.
When you look back on it, it's like, okay, so none of that happened.
And people talked about it, but it was more fear than reality.
Absolutely. And you know what? The Army, and shout out to the community of Salt Lake of 2002, the army of volunteers that you saw in those coats everywhere, making sure that everything went off without a hitch was truly remarkable.
Yep.
I mean, it was an amazing thing. There was actually less traffic
I would believe that.
than there was, you know?
Yep.
I worked at a hotel at the time, and by the way, sorry to get lost in this discussion, but I am excited the Olympics are coming back, and then my kids are going to get to experience it. I'm pretty fired up about that. But I worked at a hotel downtown, and I'm telling you, we prepared.
Yeah,
Oh, did we prepare? I mean, I mean, prepare. And at my particular hotel, it was mostly, I mean, it was obviously sold out for the whole time, but it was mostly media. It was mostly like Reuters in particular.
Okay.
And so preparing for everything. I mean, it's going to be a crisis the whole time. Easily the most boring time working there ever.
Huh.
Like we were taking parking lot shifts to make sure that nobody parked in our parking lot.
Right.
Guess how many people I had to tell, like, oh, you can't park here?
Right.
Like one.
Yeah, a handful at most. Right.
And the media people, it was so funny because they would just go to venues. I mean, I'm sure Angie could tell you this. They were the most boring guests at a hotel in the history of guests. They just go to the venues all day. They come home or come back to the hotel completely wiped out because they've been working, all day. And then they get up at the crack of dawn.
Yeah, they have to work tomorrow, so they can't go out.
And then they go to the venue all day, and then they come back, and their biggest complaint is having to walk our giant blocks to go to a restaurant. Yeah. That's like,
right.
Are you saying that to get a burger that I'm going to have to walk half a mile? And it's like, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, it's Salt Lake.
Yeah.
I could give you a history lesson about
why
how Brother Brigham laid out everything, and actually it's pretty functional. But it's a waste.
Right.
Oh, I'm so excited it's coming back. I'm excited for Christian.
Same.
It's coming back because it's great.
Do you think they'll do anything in Brigham City?
I highly doubt it. No, I don't think so.
That's where Christian's from.
I was trying to think if they do something in Logan. I mean, the beauty is you don't have to do anything in Logan because there's a zillion places that are right on top of Salt Lake City that you can
go
host
to Ogden.
Everything.
There's an arena. There's, you know what I mean? If you needed stuff, you could.
They built a temporary hockey arena in Provo that I went and saw a game at, the Seven Peaks, which I don't even know. What is that now?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is Seven Peaks still a thing? I don't think it is.
No.
Christian, you ever been to Seven Peaks? No? Great water park. They built a hockey arena out of nowhere at Seven Peaks. It was wild. And it was cool. It was super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it was honestly like Sundance on steroids and way less pretentious.
They did the curling at Weber State.
Oh, yeah.
I guess. So.
Oh, I'm getting curling tickets.
Buy them now.
Oh, I'm getting curling tickets for sure. Well, the ticket buying process last time was weird. I wonder if they'll
I bet it's better.
Have cleaned that up.
I bet in 32 years they'll have figured it out.
Because you had to buy like X amount of tickets, right? And again, we're getting lost in this thing, but you had to buy like 10 pair of tickets or whatever, different size packages. And then you said what events you wanted to see most. And then you just got what you got.
Yeah.
So we got preliminary ice dancing for some reason.
Okay.
Which had to be the worst thing I've ever watched.
Yeah, I bet.
We left.
Yeah, I get that.
Well, they have to do the same routine.
Yeah, right.
If they did different routines,
Maybe.
I absolutely would have bought in. Like, my buy-in level at all this stuff was super high.
Low.
Well,
it was easy to buy in.
It was easy to buy in.
Yeah.
Like, I was buying in.
Yeah.
And in fact, it took me like an embarrassing number of routines before I figured out they're doing the same routine.
Only one choreographer.
This is the same dang routine.
Yeah.
My dad started reading the paper.
Yeah. I'll be back.
It's like, we should leave.
Go
What
do
are we
some laps.
doing?
Yeah.
We're not gonna sit through this.
Where was it?
That was at Delta Center,
Okay.
which I believe was called Delta Center at the time.
Yeah. This whole area is going to look different. I'm excited about it.
All the hockey was over at Maverick Center, which will not be the case this time, I would guess.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be a
Not all of the hockey. I mentioned the one down in Provo.
no. This will be a cool hockey arena we're right next to. Ideally, by then.
I bet they put events in Ogden and Provo again.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah, of course.
make it a whole thing. Why not?
Spread it out. Don't need to stack everyone on top of each other. I'm excited. You're right. Now I'm excited for the next 9 years.
And you know what? That's a lot more interesting, in my opinion, than anything going on in sports right now. I mean, the Jazz are off. That football game was sure a humdinger, huh,
That
Ben?
was a
You were-
real snoozer. I
should
was
we-
way off on the Vikings.
Yeah, you were bold and made a pick on the Vikes.
I think I picked them close. Maybe I didn't even say close. That's what I had imagined. But no, they no-showed. And, we talked yesterday about this was probably I said probably hyperbolically that Sam Darnold was fighting for his life. But certainly that is not the game you want to play going into a free agent year where you are coming off the best season of your career, trying to cash in and make enough money to set you up very well for the rest of your life. I'm sure he has enough money to live comfortably, but he was probably hoping to cash in, and he still will, but not like he may have had they won this game.
So, can I ask you this? Do you think the NFL will ever become the NBA in this sense? Why would a team ever sign Sam Darnold? I either want a quarterback that throws it the wrong direction or Tom Brady. I don't want a guy that's going to win a couple of games because he plays well. And by the way, I don't buy into what I'm selling here.
Sure.
I'm just telling you, this is the philosophy in the NBA. This is the person that says don't re-sign Larry Markkinen and should just cut Colin Sexton.
Right.
So why would a team, Sam Darnold proved himself a competent NFL quarterback who can win you games, regardless of losing to the Rams last night. He probably had no business getting the Vikings to the playoffs, let alone having the record that they had. So why would a team ever sign him? I want to move my backup left guard to quarterback or have Tom Brady because it's Super Bowl or bust. Nothing else matters. And tanking means that I get a chance
You
to
can
have,
actually pick.
to have the number one pick.
You can guarantee yourself the number one pick by not winning any games.
Why will the NFL wake up to that?
Get with it, NFL.
Like the NBA has.
No. And I think it's for two reasons. One, even the number one overall pick at quarterback usually is no good. Now, in the NBA...
Also true in the NBA.
The NBA, just by getting the number one overall pick, certainly, historically, has no indication that you're ever going to win a championship. Like, you look back at it, the teams that have won a championship with the number one overall pick still on their roster is like 3 in the last 30 years. It's Tim Duncan. It's LeBron. I'd have to go back and think of who the other person is. But, like, it's not anybody. And LeBron had to come back on his second visit before they did it. Like, you don't win a title because you get the number one overall pick on your roster. It's like, it honestly might be Hakeem before that. It is so rare to have the number one overall pick carry your team to a championship.
Okay, let's slim it down even more, actually. Because I think that this makes an argument for why, people falling game to game, win and loss on a team that's really not good. Let's take football and basketball for a second. The can't miss number one picks. Like, everybody brings up the example, Andrew Luck, John Elway. Who else do you want to bring up? Basketball-wise, LeBron.
LeBron, yeah.
But
Wemby, unless that's too recent. By the way, Kyrie also won a title with the Cavs as a number 1 overall pick.
I would say Wemby's too recent.
Okay.
For what I'm getting at. Who else in basketball? Wiggins was randomly
Wiggins
that.
was, yeah. Shaq was.
Shaq.
Yeah.
Okay, now what percentage of those, the can't misses, the no-brainers, actually spent time as the best player in the league?
Oh, the best player in the league?
Yeah. LeBron has spent time
I've got the number 1 overall picks pulled up right now.
LeBron has spent time as the best player in the league.
He had about a decade. He had a good run.
Right.
Where he was the greatest player in the world.
Andrew Wiggins did not. Andrew Luck did not. Oh, Peyton Manning, you could throw him in there, and he did not.
Tim Duncan did.
Was he the best player in the league at any point in his career? Absolutely not.
I believe he was. I know some people want to argue that Shaq was more dominant.
And I
would
am
listen.
old enough to remember when it was a debate between who should go first, Keith Van Horn or Tim Duncan.
Sure.
So I wouldn't even throw him into the can't miss generational conversation.
I think to Jake's point, the fact that there's even a debate probably plays
disqualifies.
Yeah.
Olajuwon. Then honestly, the people you're talking about, there are 3 players. There are LeBron, Shaq.
I would argue Hakeem never did.
And Olajuwon in the mid-'90s when Jordan left for 18 months was probably the best player in the world.
Arguably.
And it was a window, a fluky window because the other guy left. The other guy from his draft.
Right.
left. The guy who he got picked in front of.
Those aren't just the number 1 picks. Those are the can't miss.
Right.
Even Isaiah Thomas could get this one right. Picks.
And then
I'll throw Reggie Bush in there, even though he didn't even go number 1. Never even came close to being the best.
Correct. Oh yeah, NFL, no, very rarely. And NFL is so hard because you don't always take a quarterback 1, and then if you do, it's so hard to become the guy, the best quarterback in the league.
Right. Whereas, you look at the guys that spent extended time as the best player in these leagues or best players in these leagues. They're not only not going number 1, but they're sometimes like Nikola Jokic at the moment, who's in I would say, a 5 or 6 year run of being the best player in the NBA.
Yeah, he's probably in year 5.
He went in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
Tom Brady went in the 6th round.
Yeah, 199.
Yep. And so, meanwhile, I've seen poorly run teams just boot pick after pick into the 10th row. Charlotte has been tanking for 20 years. Just booting picks, bad decisions, bad contracts. Remember the Kemba Walker contract? Remember that nightmare? I mean, it's all about the decision making. It's all about the people making the best of the hand that they're dealt. And we get so focused on percentages and having the number 1 pick. Personalize it for a second. How many bozos are listening to this show that have had the number 1 pick in their fantasy draft and completely boot it?
Boot it, yeah, completely.
Completely just draft somebody that doesn't even play.
I think Anthony Richardson's going to have a big year this year. I think it's going to be my guy.
So imagine building your whole philosophy around just, I got to choose before the rest of the people have to choose. Yeah. You still have to make the right choice.
Right.
And it's about doing what you can with your situation. That's where the what's the plan, Phil, people don't understand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I got a DM yesterday because of our show, a guy named Matt, who's a listener both to our show and the podcast I do. And he said, you've touched about this with Jake as well as the podcast. I was wondering if you could expand. I know Jake and you, to a certain extent, really downplay wins because the chance of the number 1 pick is so unrealistic, about 14%. Regardless, if you have the worst record or the 3rd worst record, it stays at 14%. He says the problem with that thinking, and he's curious about our thoughts on it, is that you can get the further back you fall, the lower your odds are, or even if you're just slotted at 4th or 5th, the more likely it is that you drop back certain spots because, 3 teams could jump you into those top 3. And he's exactly right. If you have the number 1 worst record in the league, the furthest you can fall in the NBA is 5. If you have the 5th worst record, you can conceivably fall as far as 9, I believe. So that is a difference. What I would say, though, is go back historically and look at drafts. Outside of the top 1, it's kind of a crapshoot. Like, there is usually one guy who is much better than the rest of the pool. Generally, there is. Sometimes there are two. You get to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it's exactly what you're talking about. It's about you doing the work and knowing how to identify talent. It is not in order. There is not a draft in order that goes 1 through 3. They got the right players 1, 2, 3 ever. Go look at every NBA draft. The best players have never gone 1, 2, 3. Certainly, they've never gone 4, 5, 6, 7. At that point, I don't think there's much of a difference at all between drafting 5th and drafting 8th, especially in this year's draft.
Now, while I think your answer is technically correct, I think you are overcomplicating it. And I would simply, as I often do, point to history. And when then that exact same scenario happened to Kevin O'Connor, he should have gone 3rd, slid to 5th. What did he do?
Went back to 3rd.
He traded a bunch of inconsequential crap to the Bozo Trailblazers and moved up to 3rd and took his guy.
Yeah.
Who turned into an all-star, by the way.
Yeah. Because they identified the talent. And they did recognize there was a certain point. And by the way, it's worth noting, they also got that pick wrong. Like, even the Jazz traded up and got it wrong.
They got to pick between Darren and Chris Paul.
And they got the one wrong.
For a while, it looked like they might have gotten it right.
Darren was a hell of a player. Darren is not a bust by any means.
No.
And even then, they got up, they moved, and they are still proving our point of the difference between 3 and 4 in that draft was absolutely 0.
Yeah. I mean, that's a home run.
Just fine at 4.
So, and do you think somewhere some Jazz fan is lamenting the 2 seconds in a player that they or whatever it was? I'd have to look it up. I don't even know.
They
and I remember this stuff.
Like the 15th pick and the 28th pick. Yoroslav Korolev. I can't even remember who it was, but yeah, it was a couple of guys who were nothing. Who I think one of them never played.
So if somebody spent months sweating an overtime loss or an overtime win over Brooklyn, sweating it, only to get screwed by the lottery, it took Kevin O'Connor 10 minutes to just get back up to 3rd and a bunch of stuff that they never even missed. So do you think the person who was sweating it for months was like, oh.
Turned out fine.
Well, it turned out all right.
It was okay.
I think it's going to be okay. Yeah. I said this even in the Wemby draft, and maybe I would have been wrong. I'm still not totally. Well, I must have been wrong, or they would have done it, I guess. But outside of Wemby, they could have traded for any pick in the draft they wanted. They had enough resources that they could have traded to number 2. They could have Brandon Miller if they everybody sweated it, and they got the 10th pick that year.
I think it was 9.
They could trade for any of these picks that they want if they really wanted to. But maybe they didn't like Brandon Miller. Maybe they didn't like old the Scooter.
Or, to the point I think that you could also make there is that the gap between... And look, Brandon Miller's really good. And maybe he ends up being a very, very high-level player. I don't know yet. But yeah, Scoot is awful. Scoot...
What if they traded up for Scooter?
Yeah, right.
What if they...
Legitimately, Keontae George is better than Scoot Henderson.
What if they botched the whole season for Scooter?
Yeah.
Like they botched a whole season for Dante Exum.
Yeah.
It's all about the decisions you make at the time with what you've got. That's the whole story.
Yeah.
But people get focused on what's obvious and right in front of them. Because some bozo stands there and says, well, it's actually kind of better if they don't win. And then so everybody goes, they must lose!
Yeah.
They must lose because it's all over if they beat the Nets. What a bizarro world life I'm living, let alone for something inconsequential. So if you want to tell me that a team is better off without Sam Darnold by some million miles away lens, okay.
Yeah.
You can make an argument for that. But why don't they? Why doesn't the NFL do that?
I think the scarcity and difficulty of making the playoffs makes people keep their roster closer to competing at all times.
But see, you're in the weeds. I'm talking about the philosophy. This is the problem. You get in the weeds, I could tell you a million reasons why losing games on purpose could have negative effects on a franchise. But none of them contradict the overall philosophy that it is somehow even minuscule better that they don't win. And that's what everybody gets focused on.
Yeah, I think we take something that is a theory and has some practicality to it and make it an absolute and believe it as an absolute when it's not.
Right.
And then even worse so is that there's no absolute on the back end. It's not like the NFL where, okay, conceptually, if I tank and lose all these games, I will get a number 1 overall pick. And if I get the right quarterback, my franchise has changed. Like that concept is absolutely real. The problem is in the NBA, you don't guarantee yourself anything by being bad. You get a chance then, you get a 14% chance of getting somebody who could then maybe turn your franchise around, who also might be available at 6, 7, 8, or 9. So that's why it is a very flawed process in the NBA. At least I'll say it's a very flawed process to believe that that's the only way to get better. Which, to the point now where I think the Jazz would argue, and I think rightfully so, don't be mad when Isaiah Collier wins you a game or Bryce Sensabaugh wins you a game. You're trying to develop those guys too because you want them eventually to be good enough to help you win. You can't bank it all on getting the number 1 overall pick. I talk about this story a lot. I'll be quick. Danny Ainge just told this story. They had a terrible season in 2007. Can't remember what year it was. Must have been 7. They're awful. They're tanking because the 2 guys at the top of the draft are Greg Oden and Kevin Durant. They want to get those 2 players. They really want Kevin Durant. They fall from 2 to 6 on draft night or on lottery night. Horrible. 2 to 6. Draft night, what do? They end up with Jeff Green. They trade him to the Seattle Supersonics for Ray Allen, and they win a title 12 months later. Like, there's a lot of ways to get good again, and it doesn't have to do necessarily with just winning the lottery. There's a lot of ways to fix it, and you can fix it relatively quickly. And the guy who runs the Jazz has done it before.
I've got another fiction about the Olympics that I can give you.
Okay.
If we could have a little Olympic flair.
Okay.
If anyone has observations or whatever about the 02 Olympics that will apply to the upcoming Olympics.
Use the call-in.
But I have, use the call-in, absolutely. KSL Sports app, and then just hit the call-in and you can send us. I don't know if you've got wild Olympic stories or observations or something you enjoyed, but I've got another Olympic fiction for you.
Okay.
We've got top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com coming up right around the corner. Stay tuned. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Tim Reynolds, NBA writer for the Associated Press.
By no fault of their own, the Jazz are stuck in this weird nowhere space because there's not enough teams out there able to make deals. So before the trade deadline, everybody thinks that they're in it. Trade deadlines earlier, playing in tournament means everybody's still kind of mathematically in it for the most part. No one's going to be sellers, and the teams that probably want to sell can't make a deal because of the apron. The Cat for Julius Randle trade should have been pretty easy, and it took those guys almost a week to pull it off because of all of the complexities of this new CBA. It absolutely affects Jazz fans, and I feel like this is a franchise who's stuck on the wrong side of it. They want to dance, but they don't have a dance partner. You got to have a dance partner to dance, and there's just not enough dance partners right now in the NBA for anybody.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time for the top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. I know, Lloyd, it's just something. Why do I have to bring up bad memories? Because they're unbelievably hilarious. And I do want to do a podcast about it all someday. I do. Maybe when I'm on death's door.
Okay.
Because it's too funny not to tell.
Hopefully post-Olympics.
Post-Olympics.
Yeah.
Post-Olympics for
Still
sure.
some time.
I've got an Olympic fiction for you.
Okay.
Coming up later. What's number 1, Christian?
Number 1, breaking news out of the NFL as of yesterday. The Cowboys are not bringing Mike McCarthy back, and they are in discussions with Coach Prime.
You know what I didn't do yesterday that I should have done? I should have defended Mike McCarthy more. Mike McCarthy is a good NFL coach.
Where is Mike McCarthy on the genius to bozo scale?
More genius than Bozo. He's higher than Jerry Jones is. which is not a
okay.
That's a low bar to leave.
I don't want to do comparative politics here, Ben. Give me a score for Mike McCarthy on the genius to bozo scale.
70-30. He's been saddled with two of the biggest bozos in sports. He had Aaron Rodgers, and he went right into Jerry Jones. I think he's a good coach.
Yeah, but see, I think a lot of the genius might be, hey, you Rodgers, go throw that touchdown.
Yeah.
I think there might.
Yeah.
I think there might. That might be part of the genius.
Okay,
you know what I
it
mean?
might be.
Because he goes, hey, you Dak, go win me that football game, and Dak isn't good enough to do it. Because remember, during McCarthy's entire run, they were a running team. They had all sorts of talent at running back. And the whole time he spent trying to make Dak Prescott into Aaron Rodgers. That's my biggest critique of the Cowboys over the last 5 years is that they weren't satisfied with winning by running the ball. They had to win by Dak lighting everybody up.
And they've had some super talented teams.
And he's not that.
They have had super talented teams. They've had the best offensive line a couple of years. They've had some stacked defenses. They really have had some talent. But to that point, he went 12-5, 12-5, 12-5 in back-to-back-to-back years, which is really hard to do
with
in
everybody
the NFL.
complaining that they weren't winning the right way.
And I agree with that, and I recognize
including
that.
Jerry.
Well, Jerry's a bozo. Jerry's 90-10 on the bozo to genius.
Okay,
so.
listen, we're talking about good decisions, and we were talking about the NBA and NFL. It's bad decisions kill you. And if you want the latest example of Jerry Jones being way more bozo than he is genius, do you remember that he nickel and dimed Dak Prescott for the first extension? Do you remember that they went down the we're going to franchise you route, even though it was a lost cause and everybody knew they were just going to pay him? He
Correct.
dragged it out like an extra year. And you remember it cost him whatever $1 million because they waited that long.
Yeah.
Because the quarterback salaries, it's all based on who got paid what. And so it cost Jerry an extra $50 million or something stupid just because he was doing what the Jazz did to Gordon Hayward. And then this latest extension for Dak, they just, yes!
Take it. Right.
This latest extension, they were just like, oh, all of it. We love you. You're great. And then people were like, yeah, but isn't he hurt?
Always. And actively.
He was currently hurt. Actually hurt.
And is always hurt.
No, give it to him.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about bad decisions. He made a bad decision by chiseling Dak the first time.
Jerry
did.
Not Mike.
Jerry.
Yeah.
That was a bad decision. And then he made a bad decision by doing the exact opposite thing.
Right.
So it's that's how I know that guy's a bozo, because he makes the wrong decision all the time. Faced with you can make this or that, like an up or down vote, no nuance, whatever. He makes the wrong one every time.
But to get to where we were talking about, I think I have said all along, I don't know how it's going to happen. Maybe it does. I have said Dion was good. Dion was going to be good for 24 months at Colorado, and he actually exceeded my expectations. But it makes sense to me now that he is talking to the Cowboys about their head coaching opening.
They're going to hire him. You know why? It is by far the most bozo thing the Cowboys could do is hire Dion. Can you imagine his strong personality and Jerry's strong personality actually
trying to coexist?
That's
why Bill Belichick wouldn't have worked there.
It's why Jimmy Johnson ultimately didn't work there.
Yeah.
It's like, Jerry, you're just going to step in and take all the credit, bro? I got an ego too, man.
Yeah.
And Dion's got a big one.
Huge one. Yeah, huge ego.
Huge ego. And then Dion also likes to do something else, and that's blame players. Dion loves to throw the O-line under the bus, for example.
Yeah.
He's
not afraid to do it.
He's perfectly fine saying my players aren't good enough. Well, who's picking the players for the Cowboys?
Or paying them, to our point about Dak. Yeah. And who will take that very personally on his Monday morning radio call that he always does?
It's going to go terribly. So you know what they're going to do? Just that.
Yep. I think you're right.
I think it's going to
He's
happen.
going to be the next head coach of the Cowboys. Good for Dion. I can't wait to watch it. I think it's going to be really exciting. Dion's fun to watch. The Cowboys are fun to watch, and it's not going to work. And that's going to make it even more exciting. And I bet Mike McCarthy goes somewhere and has success somewhere. He's a good coach.
You know what's funny, though, is the value of the Cowboys will go up, revenues will go up, all those things, and Jerry will tag it as a win.
Sure.
Like he thinks in his mind he's won 10 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Because his scoreboard is, well, the Cowboys are the biggest thing in sports, which is true.
And every major sporting event is held inside his arena.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are all victories for him. Those are, in his opinion, those are about Jerry.
Next.
Number 2, Utah football finally holding media availability with Kyle Whittingham and their new coordinator.
I'm excited to see this. I'm excited to see what they say. I don't think we're going to get anything necessarily groundbreaking coming out.
But you're going to see a coach that still has optimism and is still a breathing, living, idealistic coach. That will last for about 10 minutes. And then we'll never hear from him again because offensive coordinators aren't allowed to do interviews anymore after Dave Christensen. So,
yes, I would warn you, whatever we hear from Jason Beck and Witt's optimism about what the offense is going to look like may not actually be a thing.
No, it's like media day. It's when you see everybody and they haven't lost a game yet, and they're all like, hey, who was our guy from Houston that we talked to that was freaking awesome? Fritz, our boy Fritz.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, I think we're going to surprise some people. Which they actually kind of did.
Surprise Utah and Kansas State. Yeah.
It's that vibe because you haven't lost yet. You know what I mean?
And look, that's not to say I don't think Utah's going to be better. I'm not trying to say that, I think Utah makes a bowl game. I think Utah has a real chance to compete for the Big 12 next year. I 100% firmly believe that. And I think the offense is going to be much improved from last year. But what we hear about what the offense is going to look like and what the offense is going to actually look like, I think might be two different things. That's 11 today.
All right.
Excited.
Next.
And number 3, the Utah Hockey Club back in action. They are hosting Montreal tonight.
A stinker in their last game. So let's see them come out and have a little bit of momentum. Man, the offense just kind of comes and goes. And they are really hurting right now because Dylan Guenther is out indefinitely. And we don't know when he's going to return, though it doesn't sound like it's season ending. Where it really has impacted them and did in the last game was in the power play. Dylan Guenther's just so dangerous, and you always have to have somebody on him and a body paying attention to him because he's an absolute sniper. And when he's not out there, they seem to be passing the puck around looking to find somebody who just wants to take shots. And I think sometimes they've let perfect be the enemy of good when it comes to just putting the puck at the net. Just throw it out there and see if you can make something happen on a rebound or with a little bit of puck luck, where Dylan Guenther is excellent at hey, we're going to set up a play. We're going to find him open, and he's going to put it in the back of the net. They don't have that guy right now.
Whatever. I hope they lose.
Okay.
Yeah, I want him to get a better pick, dude.
You want a number 1 pick? Well,
I want him to get a better pick, dude. Why would I want him to win? I don't think they're going to win the Stanley Cup, so I hope they lose every game.
I am excited to watch how they're playing.
Why doesn't that apply to hockey? It applies to the NBA like it's the only thing that freaking matters. Why does it apply to hockey?
And you're not wrong, because truthfully, if the Jazz were dead set on winning as many games as possible, they would be competing for 35, 36 wins.
You know Ovechkin went number 1, right?
I do. Hey, you know what?
So how on earth are they supposed to even exist?
In retrospect, I bet you there are some teams that wish they had tanked harder to get Ovechkin to that point. But, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Is Macklin Celebrini end up being the end-all, be-all? Connor Bedard's been a little bit underwhelming, though he's still very good. You know, Logan Cooley's the best player from his draft and wasn't the number 1 overall pick. So I get what you're saying. I'm with you. I think Dylan Guenther was a second-round pick.
All of that is beside the point.
Yeah.
If they don't get the number 1 pick, how are they going to go on?
Where was Dylan Guenther?
And if they don't lose every game, they're not going to get the number 1 pick.
Oh, he's the 9th overall pick. Excuse me. No, he was high.
Well, that is all beside the point.
Tank for Guenther.
Yeah, Nikola Jokic winning the second round. Spare me. I don't want to hear any of that.
See if Josh Doan plays well. He's up with the club. He was a second-round pick.
More next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bangs! Cheap bangs!
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz.
Woo!
Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's Tuesday. That means we're giving away some Jazz tickets. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. You're going to win a pair of tickets to go see the Jazz and the Hornets tomorrow night at Delta Center. We were talking about Brandon Miller earlier. You can go see him. Good times. Also want to remind you about Win Ticket Wednesday, which is coming up tomorrow. Your chance to win big every week on the KSL Sports Zone. This week on Win Ticket Wednesday, you could win a pair of tickets to see Chris Stapleton at the All-American Roadshow coming this summer to Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on August 15th. Listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day on Wednesday for your chance to win. Can I tell you the Olympic
falsehood,
myth or falsehood? Yeah. We all build the Olympics up as, well, this is the best of the best. And that Olympic gold means you are at the peak of your sport. This is actually not true.
Okay.
Now, I'm not trying to diminish the Olympic winners out there. It's terrific and obviously something that I'll never do. I kind of know one in my personal life, which is pretty awesome. Another, the locals at the O2 Olympics really showed out, which was cool. So hope that happens again. But what you don't understand, Ben, is there are all sorts of countries that participate in the Winter Olympics.
Right.
The best skier in Argentina is probably the 1,000th best skier in America, in the United States.
In Salt Lake City.
In Salt Lake City, maybe worse.
Yeah.
So, like, the best, there's examples of this in every event because they don't show everything on TV.
Right.
They only show you the people that actually have a chance on TV. What you don't realize is the other 3/4 of participants are also there.
Yeah.
And so I went to the Super G at Snow Basin, which, speaking of great venues, I mean, they hit a home run. They were amazing. And I'll tell you what, like, they put the best last. Right. So the first several skiers, what you don't know is they don't even make it to the bottom of the hill.
They're taking
Truly.
it easy. Yeah.
No. They don't make it down the course. Like, they can't, like, they're trying, but they miss a gate or wipe out or whatever.
Right.
And you realize, okay, this isn't the best of the best. Like, there's a couple of the best that are here.
Right.
But this is not the best of the best. You know, somewhere, some skier is like, come on, dude, I can at least make it down the course. And no offense to, like, it's amazing that they're there.
Yeah.
Like, the Jamaican bobsled team was really good. What you don't realize is there are a lot of Jamaican bobsled teams out there, and they don't do very well, honestly.
And the host country gets automatic qualifiers as well, which floods. With again, it adds interest. It gives you fans reason to go out and root for your fellow countrymen. But it doesn't necessarily mean, as you like to say, it's a meritocracy.
Right. It's not necessarily the best of the best. That is not a thing. Like, if you went to a World Cup ski event, then you're watching the best of the best.
Yeah.
But nobody cares about World Cup ski events. But we do care about the Olympics because there is this myth that we think it is the best of the best.
Yeah.
That's not actually the case. All right. Oh, man. Argentinian Super G skier.
Tough.
They made it about like a quarter of the way down. He could have been sidestepping and he wouldn't have made it down to the bottom.
The V, the whole way down.
And you know what?
Make a pizza.
No, and that course, like, that was a theme of the Super G races. Everything at Snow Basin actually was like the course itself was pretty demanding. Anyway, I'm so excited it's coming back. Is it really 9 years from now? Is that what it is?
Yeah, 2034.
Geez, we're going to really build up to this thing, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We're going to talk about it every day until then.
Stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.